Hi guys, I just wanted to use this video to help clarify how this thing, the amphibian do-it-yourself power adapter could help improve your charge times via the Tesla universal mobile connector that's included with your Tesla Model 3 to charge your Tesla here in Australia. So just to start off with, let's just go with when you first buy your Tesla, this will be included in your boot, and it does have an open socket there, and it does come with what they call two tails, okay? There are two tails that it comes with right here. Now, you'll notice that one of them has quite a big socket, like ground pin right there, whereas this one just looks like a normal one. And if you look a bit closer, you'll see that this is designed to be used in a normal 10 amp socket, so just pretty much everything like you plug your phone into, whereas this is more a high powered one and is designed for a 15 amp socket. So let's see if you can get there. Now the thing is, with both of these tails, they've been deliberately dialed back to 20% just for safety. So even though this one with the smaller one goes into a normal socket, it drops it down from rated 10 amps down to 8 amps. Whereas same with this one, even though this is a 15 amp plug, it only is rated at 12 amps, which is again a 20% reduction. So what does that mean? So if I get the normal 10 amp version, which would only run at a maximum of 8 amps. So let's plug that in right there. There we go. And let's go plug that into the wall. So this is a 10 amp socket, as you can see, right there. So this is just the normal power plug. You'll see I do have power there. Let's go plug that in and see what happens. Blue and then green. So that's charging now. If we look inside, that's going to 3 hours and 30 minutes to get to, so 3.5 hours to get to 90%. It's currently at 78% charge, and it's charging at 2 kilowatts. So you can see that it's running at 8 out of 8 amps at 236 volts or whatnot. So you can actually round that down, but the maximum that you can go is 8 amps there. All right, so just remember that, 3.5 hours, okay? So and this is where, so let's stop this. So this is where the amphibian, can come into handy. Now, let's pull this guy back out. So if you got this guy and you take out the normal plug and you put in the high powered 15 amp one, which has the bigger tail there, bigger ground pin, you put that in. Obviously that isn't going to fit into your normal wall outlet because it's got that bigger plug on purpose. And you obviously shouldn't be pulling 15 amps out of a 10 amp socket because you risk overloading the circuit. So that's obviously not safe as well. But what this guy does is it actually has a bigger earth pin there, or ground pin. So it will fit in like that. Okay. And then it also has a 10 amp breaker on this guy. So if you press that, that would switch off if it went over 10 amps and you energize that back on. But then on the other end, it is just your normal 10 amp plug. So I could plug this into the wall and let's see what happens. So it's powered through there, through the circuit breaker, through the 15 amp plug, which is rated at 12 amps, and we've got power. So now let's see what happens when I plug it in. in, blue, and green. All right, let's have a look inside. You can see it has dropped the charging time from 3.5 hours before down to 2.5 hours. So you've saved maybe 30% or so, and then this is at the higher end there. Now, obviously, so this is now running at a higher limit at 12 amps, which is what the cable and the tail is rated for. However, for safety, you can just bring it back down to 10 amps there, which is what the socket is actually rated for. So you'll be running 10 amps through, and 10 amps, which is what the socket's rated for, at 230, which is still 20% faster. So here we are now we're at 2 hours 55 to do that same charge. So we've saved half an hour, or so instead of it taking 3.5 hours, it's going to take 2 hours 55. But if you compound that overnight, that's a 20% reduction in time, because you're getting 20% more power. So that's kind of where the use case, because I think that could make the difference between charging overnight and you know, where your state of charge is maybe down to 40% or so, especially on the standard range plus, and you only have maybe 12 hours to charge it from, say, 7 p.m. till 7 a.m. before you need to go again. And you might not get that full charge running it at 8 amps, whereas if you ran it at 10 amps, you probably would get the full amount. So that's just really why you would use something like that amphibian. So I'll show you that again. So it is working, and we're running it at through a 10 amp socket at 10 amps restricted at the car. Now you obviously can, or it obviously works and doesn't trigger the switch to go when it goes to 12 amps. So you could technically do it, but for safety reasons, you would do that at your own risk. So even though it does work and it's not tripping the circuit itself, and potentially because the circuit itself is probably rated at much higher, but again, depending on how your house is set up and also what else is on that circuit, I wouldn't recommend it. So I'll just slowly show you these things so you can have a look yourself. This guy right here is $69 at Bunnings, and you can just go pick it up. So you can pause that if you want to just have a read of the different types. And this is some of the features here. Now, just as a last tip as well, while you're having a look at this, is that there are different forms here, which is like, these two are waterproof as well compared to this one, which is what's right here. Now the thing is, this guy and this guy, because the socket is enclosed inside there, which is much better for an outdoor use, the problem is the way that the elbow is designed for this plug, because it's a straight through plug, it actually won't fit. It'll actually have to bend completely that way, and it's probably not ideal. So this is really the only guide to use, and you want to be using that indoors only. But essentially, hopefully that clears up how something like an amphibian, which will only cost you $69, might actually help fulfill all your charging needs at home here in Australia for your Tesla Model 3, and maybe save you hundreds of dollars instead of installing your Tesla supplied high-powered wall charger. Now obviously the downside is you're going to have to use the mobile connector all the time at home, but for me that's totally okay. All right, hopefully that was helpful. If you've got any more questions, please put them in the comments below. Okay, thanks, bye.